Hi there, it's Mr. Tush over at Global, and here is a screencast about the Spreadsheets Basics, and this is part two. And in this particular video, we're going to talk about creating your workbook, and we're going to do the data sheet component. We're going to, in this video, get down 1, 2, and 3. The columns, the boldface and frozen, and the filters. We're going to do number 4 in the next video because it's a little bit more complex. So here's parts 1, 2, and 3. So first request, it says columns are fixed to proper widths. Well, let's take a look at it. When you open this up and you've saved it, we did that in the last video. Here are your columns. And you have first NAM, and that's not even an M, it's an N because it's cut off, and all these are really hard to read. Social ST, it's just difficult to read. Well, these are rows. If you look and go across, those are called rows, and these are called columns. The letters are going to give you the column numbers or names rather, and the rows are going to give you the row numbers. Well, to make the column the right width, there's a bunch of different ways. The easiest is click at this little dividing line. When you hover your mouse over the divider between the two letters, not here, but here, when you hover it there, you're going to be able to drag it. So you can go here and drag it open. That's perfectly fine. That's one valid way to do it. The second way you could do it is you could hold it over this and you could double click. So I'm going to go in between B and C, hover and double click. When I do that, it actually sets the width for what's required for not only the title, but you see there's a little bit of width here, but we have this name Zimmerman down here, and that's wider than last name. So it actually gives a little space for the longest names in Valenzuela, another longer name. So because you have more text there, it just widens the column to accommodate the text that's in there. And it will just use the widest text string. Now, how do we do that to all of it? Well, watch this. I can, with one click, do all of my columns. Click. Oops, try that again. Click, and I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to click off, my apologies. When you do the click and drag, you have to go click and drag all the way in one movement. If I click, release, and click again, I'll be moving the column, and I'll drop it over here, and it'll get very confusing. So I'm going to undo that. Click here. I'm going to go click and drag. Click across all of them. One motion. Once I do that, I can go over here and I can double click, and poof, it actually adjusts the column widths for all of the columns. I want you to remember that trick. I'm going to undo it and show you again. Click off. Now click and drag from A to I. Click and drag from A to I. Go between any two columns, doesn't matter. Double click, and it widens them all properly. Remember that trick, you're going to need it several times. Stop and do that task, please. And then when you're done, come back and restart the video. Okay, so we're back at that. And the next thing we want to look at is top row, bold-faced, and frozen for scrolling. So the top row, to be bold-faced, let's take a look at that. I can pick any row by clicking on the number. So here's my 7th row and my 11th row, and here's my first row. On the top row, it wants bold-faced and frozen for scrolling. Well, bold-faced, you probably know this from your working in Microsoft Word. All of the different Office products and all of the different Google Sheets products and Google Docs products, these all have this standard header specific for the software you're working in. If I click the bold, it makes them all bold. And that's great, except that look, the E is cut off and the S is cut off and this overhangs. Well, we know how to fix that. So remember, the bold is right here. Select it and bold it, and then click and drag all of them and adjust your column widths again. Always adjust your column widths because it'll make your headers easier to read. And finally, it says frozen for scrolling. Well, why do I want to do that? Well, watch what happens. I have 100 names in this list, but I can see about 30 of them on this screen. The number 31's cut off here. So I'm going to scroll down, and this is great. So let's take a look at, JC Page. And JC Page has a 57 in, I don't know, and has a 96 in, I don't know. So what we're going to do, we're going to make it so that you can see these headers all the way through. And the way I do that is I go over here and I click the first line, and I go to View, and I go to something called Freeze, and I'll freeze the top row, one row. Now what I've done with that is now when I scroll down, I can see the entire spreadsheet, but I know that, okay, let's go down to JC Page. I don't know where she is. She's down in here. And so I completely lost where that person is. I'll show you how to find him later. That's a separate conversation. Now I can look at Tristan Salazar, and we'll bring Tristan Salazar up near the top. Oh, there's JC Page right there. We'll go to JC Page. And now when I bring JC Page up, I know that her 92 was in English, her 57 was in math, and her computer science grade was 96, and things like that. So that's how you freeze a column, a row. You could do it with columns too, but that's a separate conversation. Stop and do that task, freeze the columns, and then restart the video and move on. And here we are back. The next thing you have to do is create filters for all the columns. Now that is kind of a fun thing. Filters are neat because, as you can see, you've got a bunch of information in here. Sorry about my bouncing around there. You've got a bunch of information in here, and I don't always want to see everything all at once and have to hand pick everything. I want to alphabetize. I want to be able to find just my 9th graders, things like that. Well, the great thing about spreadsheets is spreadsheets, generally speaking, will allow you to use something called filters. So I'm going to click right here on the first row. And I'm going to go over to, and it's not visible here, so I'm going to go over to more. And in my case, it's visible here. Sometimes this icon is visible in this row, and sometimes it's visible under more. Don't worry if it's that way, it's not a problem. I'm going to undo what I just did because I accidentally did it for you while you were watching. I'm going to select where I want my filters. I can pick all of these, or I can just pick the row, doesn't matter. I'm going to go over to more, and I'm going to click filters. And look what it does. It sticks these little dots right next to, these little lines really, right next to them. Well, a filter does something helpful. Let me show you what it does. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our column adjustment trick. We're going to adjust our columns because now we're going to widen them again. Okay, so do that. And now you can see first name plus this little thing, last name plus this little filter, grade plus this little filter. Let's say I really just want these names alphabetized. That's the easiest way to use a filter. Go over to last name, sort A to Z. That's it. You just alphabetize your list. That's all you have to know. And it moves everybody else. So even though Holden Atkinson was somewhere else, watch, I don't know where Holden Atkinson was, but Holden Atkinson is, there we go, down here at number 24, 98, 88, 99, 64. Once I alphabetize, Holden pops to the top, 98, 88, 99, 64. It takes Holden and all of that Holden row up to the second or third row, well, second row on the list, or column or row 3 on the spreadsheet. So that's one of the things we're going to do. And then the other kind of thing that's cool is if I wanted to maybe just take a look at my seniors, I could go over here and I could unselect 9, 10, and 11. Boom, there's all my seniors. Oh, gee, okay, I can look at my seniors, but now I want to look at my juniors. Go back to grade 11, take off 12, boom. Oh, I want to see everybody again. Back to here, select all, boom. Wait a second. I want to look at Jake Daniels, and I just want to look at Jake Daniels. I'm going to go over here to this list, clear, type D-A-N, oh, there's Daniels, and click it, and away we go. And there's Jake Daniels' report card. So this is just his grades for this random quarter. Of course, as you realize, these are all fake data, and none of these people actually exist, but it is a handy little spreadsheet. Take a minute now and put in your filters and play with them just a little bit, and then come back. The last is going to be the academic average for each student, and to keep these videos under control, I am going to postpone that for the next video.